Thank you for joining Quick Tips for Nonprofits. Today's Quick Tip will focus on the various relief measures that are available now for nonprofits impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Community Law Center is a legal services provider for nonprofit organizations and community organizations throughout Maryland. Community Law Center can help nonprofits with a variety of legal issues, everything from forming and governing boards to necessary filings, to issues with property, zoning, contracts, employment, nuisance issues, liquor board matters, intellectual property, and many other matters. Today's quick tip is just for informational purposes and should not be construed as legal advice, which really should be tailored to your organization. If you wish to become a client of the Community Law Center, your organization can submit a simple application. Many of the federal measures that were enacted in March for COVID-19 economic relief benefits employers with 500 or fewer employees. If your organization has no employees, the only measure that may apply to you is EIDL, which we will discuss. Here is a snapshot of the recent federal legislation that applies to nonprofits. The CARES Act was enacted on March 27th with three measures that we'll talk about, which are the Employee Retention Credit, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL, and the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. And some of these are mutually exclusive, especially the PPP, which mostly excludes you from the others. So please feel free to contact us with questions. We have a fact sheet with details. You can request brief advice to speak with an attorney or apply to become a client. Another benefit to take note of if you're not borrowing under the PPP is that you can take advantage of deferred payment of your payroll taxes. The employer's portion of payroll taxes on wages in 2020 can be paid later, half by the end of 2021 and half by the end of 2022. In addition to the CARES Act, there was another piece of federal legislation enacted on March 18th, which the CARES Act made amendments to, and it's called the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. And it includes emergency paid sick leave and family and medical leave that certain employers will be required to pay up to 2 weeks of to employees who are unable to work or telework due to certain circumstances related to COVID-19. Employers are entitled to a refundable tax credit to help cover this. So if you think this may affect you, the Department of Labor has helpful FAQs posted online that they keep updated. But going back to the three measures that are under CARES, the first one is the Employee Retention Credit. If you are an employer whose business was significantly impacted by this pandemic and you continue to pay employees who are not working, meaning your operations were suspended or closed, or your revenue decreased by at least half, you may receive tax credit on your payroll taxes of 50% on up to $10,000 of qualified wages. And qualified wages depends on how many full-time employees you had in 2019. If you had 100 or fewer, then all of your wages for all your employees would qualify. But if you had more than 100 full-time employees in 2019, only the wages of your employees who stopped providing services during this period for COVID-19 would count. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan is a very low interest loan for small businesses and nonprofits that have been, it's been expanded to cover those impacted by the COVID-19 emergency. The loan has to be used for payroll, paying fixed debts, accounts payable, and other bills that can't be paid because of this disaster's impact. If you are unable to cover your financial obligations and operating expenses because of this pandemic, you can qualify if you were in operation at the beginning of the year. Self-certification is required that your obligations and expenses could have been met had this disaster not occurred. They will also consider your ability to repay, meaning that they will evaluate your credit score or use a similar method. No personal guarantee is required for loans up to $200,000, but collateral may be required for loans over $25,000. The terms are very favorable. For nonprofits, the interest rate is 2.75% with very long-term repayment, a max of 30 years, and repayment is deferred for up to 4 years. It's also important to note that there is a $10,000 emergency grant that can be requested as an advance on this loan, and that would be received within 3 days. and forgiven even if you're denied this loan. The Paycheck Protection Program is a very low interest SBA loan with a significant portion of it being forgivable. So in essence, this would become a grant. Eligible nonprofits include 501c3 organizations, veterans groups, and tribal organizations. And you may qualify if you've been paying wages, either paying employees and payroll taxes or paying independent contractors. You will also have to give a good faith certification that your organization needs these funds to continue operations in the current economic conditions. So as you're retaining workers, maintaining payroll, or making payments on mortgage, lease, or utilities. Your loan amount would be calculated as 2.5 times your average monthly payroll for a period in the year before this loan is made. For loan forgiveness, up to 8 weeks of these qualifying costs can be forgiven, but actually 75% or more has to be payroll. And there actually are adjustment factors that can decrease the forgiven amount. Those would be if your employee headcount decreases or if there are salary levels that decrease by 25% or more in a certain period. There's a lot of details surrounding this that you will want to contact us about. The interest rate is 1% with a term of 2 years, and loan repayment is deferred for 6 months. These funds must be used mainly for payroll costs and some general operating costs such as existing rent obligations, utilities, and even interest payments on existing debt. Applications for the Paycheck Protection Program just started being processed on April 3rd. Loans are approved by lenders who opt in, so you would want to contact your current bank to see if they're participating. This covers the federal measures under the CARES Act and the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, but there is a state grant that I wanted to talk about. It's called the Maryland Small Business COVID-19 Emergency Relief Grant Fund. And this is assistance to provide interim relief to support the ordinary operating expenses of small businesses and nonprofits with employees that were significantly impacted by this pandemic. This would be 3 months of cash operating expenses or a maximum of $10,000. And these funds must be used for ordinary operating expenses, meaning payroll, rent, mortgage, utility expenses, and similar expenses. You do have to demonstrate that the pandemic disrupted your business operations or inflicted financial stress, and your organization also has to meet other criteria, including that you have 1 to 50 employees on your payroll, meaning W-2 employees. Your organization was established before March 9th of this year. You are in good standing with the state, and your annual revenues do not exceed $5 million. Personal credit scores will be evaluated, so your personal credit score should be at least $575. Thanks for checking out today's quick tip. You can learn more and access resources for nonprofits on our website. If you'd like to speak with an attorney, we are offering free brief legal advice appointments up to 45 minutes. There is a variety of workshops and publications, and we are putting these quick tips on our website and on social media as we do them. If you're ready for legal assistance on a matter, please apply for our legal services by downloading the application on our website, communitylaw.org. Take care.